Let's talk about how to call a make scenario from a Google Sheet using a webhook. We know that if we create a webhook in make, it's going to give us a unique address on the internet. I'm going to add a hook. I'm going to call it create blog. And it's going to give me this URL, which is at make.com, and then this unique ID that no one else on the internet has, or no one else on make.com has. So that every time we call this, we are calling this scenario that we're building right here with the webhook, where the webhook is the first item in the scenario. In order to call this from our Google spreadsheet, we're going to use two Google functions. One is hyperlink and one is concatenate. And because concatenate is inside hyperlink, we're going to do concatenate first, and then we're going to make a hyperlink out of it. And the equal sign says perform this as a function. So what is the concatenating? Well, it's taking the first portion of the make webhook, which was this make.com part right here. And then in this case, I've stored the unique ID in a cell so that I can play with different scenarios from this spreadsheet. But you can hard code the cell like this. You can just put your make.com scenario, if I can get my cursor to work, like this. So I just pasted in the hook that the webhook just gave us. So now here's our hard-coded hook followed by a question mark. And the way that URLs work is that the first argument or first parameter after the address is a question mark. And from then on, you have key value pairs separated by ampersands. So spreadsheet ID is a key, and whatever is in A4, which in this case is this word right here, Integromat, that's the name of the website. So I'm passing the spreadsheet ID, which is also the website name, in that variable. And that's going to allow us to have information that the scenario needs in order to create the blog entry. One of the cool things that it can do here is you can pass a row variable, and this can be any name that you want. Anything inside quotes is completely up to you what it says. You could call this Bob equals and Bob equals. And as long as you refer to it as Bob in your scenario, then that'll have your row value in it. The rest of these are all dependent on the row that I'm in, what value it's going to pick up. When it picks up F1, for example, from this title row, that's actually the title article ID. But when this is concatenation is inside an actual cell in the working data, then we're going to get F343 in this case, which is this value from post 3026. So it's going to pick up items from the current row. So each one of these, the way that you can think of this is you have a bunch of strings, which goes to here, and then every time you have a dynamic value, you end the string, create a comma, start the dynamic value, do another comma, and then start with another string. So as long as you keep that name value pair in mind where one thing is a string and the other thing is comma, value, comma, you'll be okay. And then at the end of this parentheses, that's the end of the concatenate function. And then there's a comma after that, and that's where we give the name of the URL. So this is the hyperlink argument that says your first argument is what is your HTTP address, and that's everything to here. And then the second argument to hyperlink, and what do you want to call this link? G7 section images, and that's how we get G7 section images. So what happens when we copy all those variables and we actually render the link? We get all the values that were in the formulas that were referenced. The spreadsheet name is Integromat, the row rendered to 344, the article ID was 30272, etc. So this is how you send values from your spreadsheet over to make screen. The first time you set up a hook, the create blog hook, the system is going to ask you to send a sample of the data that you'll be using in the future. So you can create a link like we did a minute ago. I think we put it in here, right? No, we didn't. Where did we put it? Put it here? Yeah, we hard coded it right here. We can actually click on this link and that will send all of those variables over to our Oh, what have I done wrong? Okay, I had the wrong ID in my paste buffer. So when we created that link, we created it for one that we're not actually using. This was the wrong thing to paste in. Let's go back here to our scenario. We want to copy this address into our Google Sheet, which is the one that we just created. M73, M73. Now, when we hit enter in order to save that, and then we select it and we click it, we say successfully determined. Now, what we didn't get was a sample of our data. So let's actually run this one more time and see what the data looks like when it comes across from a Google Sheet. And there is all the data that we just sent, the spreadsheet ID, the spreadsheet name, and all the rest of the data that we sent. So this is how you can invoke a make scenario using a webhook from Google Sheets.